So before we jump into our lineup of amazing speakers, just a little bit about the Pearl and the work they're doing, which I'm sure everybody in this room already knows, but I just want to take a second to honor and acknowledge just this work they're doing around pioneering the study and application of psychedelic medicines through research, through treatment, and through education. And we all know how much traction this work is gaining, even through the ups and downs of its evolution. But one of the things that makes the Pearl so special is their dedication to making it accessible and affordable. Establishing this reduced cost clinic right here in Western North Carolina. And who can't get behind a mission like that? So in this past year, they did make incredible strides, and one of them was the achievements through their Extended Access MDMA-assisted therapy program. I don't know if you know, but they treated 4 treatment-resistant PTSD people who, after the protocol, no longer qualify for PTSD. So these are the kind of life-changing impacts that we're about, and it's just one of the things that they're doing. So tonight we're going to hear a whole lot more, and so let's just jump in. First up, we have a special message from none other than the Dr. Rick Doblin. He's the founder and president of MAPS. And we probably all know, but he's been doing this tirelessly since the 80s, advocating for safe and legal access to MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD. And he has been a huge supporter of the Pearl. He's been pivotal in helping us realize opportunities like the Extended Access Program. So his flight schedule meant that he couldn't actually be here tonight, but he did record this short message to welcome us all in. So let's give him a good virtual round of applause.
Hello everyone, it's Rick Doblin from MAPS, and I'm sorry I can't be with you in person. We have a MAPS board meeting taking place on Friday, and on Thursday, the day you're meeting, I need to prepare. But I wanted to really just express my appreciation for everything that Raymond Turpin and others have done at the Pearl Institute, and the way that you've really tried to work with the Expanded Access Program, become a center of excellence for research and treatment, and hopefully one day perhaps training of other therapists at the Pearl Institute. It's been difficult, as you know. We've had these setbacks from the FDA, but I think we all appreciate how incredible the therapeutic potential of MDMA actually is, and to continue and persevere through these challenging times is what we really need to do. And so for all of you who are gathered there, I really wish that there was an immediate opening for you to be working with PTSD patients and others with MDMA, but that's not possible. But we will get there. I think LECOS will eventually succeed, and the work that you're doing now to lay the groundwork is really heartening. And I know there's so much need for healing, and so it's with the greatest of appreciation that I wish to welcome all of you here to celebrate the Pearl and its 3rd annual gathering of the Pearl. And perhaps I will be able to be there on the 4th gathering, or the 5th, or sometime. I will come there and celebrate with you. It's just critically important. The world really needs more healing, and it's admirable what you're doing to try to provide it. Welcome. Bye.
Yay. So before we move on to our next speaker, I want to take a moment to introduce the Pearl's amazing board, because they've been so instrumental in the success of what's been happening. So I'm going to call your name, and if you could stand up, and then we'll just all honor and acknowledge you together. So Colin O'Berry, Kelly Butler, John Michael Cletus, Justin Powell, Ehren Cruz, Lynn Carlson, Bill Zimmer, And in October, we'll be welcoming 2 new members, Michael Cunningham and Gina Giorgio. So let's collective round of applause. So next, we will have the one and only Dr. Raymond Turpin, which I'm sure he doesn't need an introduction for any of us, but I'm going to do it anyway. So he is the co-founder, executive director, and clinical director of The Pearl, with such an incredible deep passion and dedication to this work. And so he's been a licensed psychologist for over 20 years, and he's been working with trauma survivors of all ages, as well as families. And he's been leading The Pearl since 2021, but fun fact, he first envisioned it in 2017, and he started studying and researching psychedelics back in 1984. So that's 40 years, if you wanted to count, which is a little bit ahead of the curve and so wonderful. And he does so much, from being the co-primary investigator and lead therapist for the extended access MDMA-assisted therapy, to keeping a lot of balls in the air so that we can continue to try to make these things available, affordable, and accessible. So with a big round of applause, let's welcome Dr. Raymond Turpin.
Hello? Okay. Thank you, Jackie. And thank you for emceeing tonight. When Jackie and I were comparing notes earlier, she was going to say half the things I had planned to say, so I'm going to be winging this a little bit, but that's all right. The main thing that this night is really about thanking you guys. It's about thanking the people that believed in us and that support the Pearl. They understand what we're trying to do. Some people understand where we're trying to do it, which is out there on the frontier in Waynesville. And it's been quite an adventure. That's why when you drive by, there's no sign out front that says what we are. So our mission is to turn on one person at a time in Waynesville and Haywood County and points west. And so far it's been working. I did want to just comment a little bit. Everybody is disappointed. We were all set to hopefully start treating people with MDMA in January of 2025. That was kind of the feeling before June, before the advisory committee hearing. And I do think there might be some folks that speak on this a little more tonight, but I think it was clearly a political decision, not really based in science. I do think that MDMA and psychedelic-assisted therapy has the capacity to completely upend the pharmaceutical industry, and so I think that that's a big barrier that we're going to have to work through. But I think the thing for people to understand is when you look back on the phase 2 and the phase 3 research, even though the phase 3 research is the one getting all the criticism, it was solid. And it showed very clearly that this medicine could be administered safely to people with PTSD, and that the vast majority of them, roughly around 3/4 to 2/3, no longer would qualify for a PTSD diagnosis after 3 MDMA sessions and 12 90-minute non-drug sessions. And for somebody that's been in mental health for I've been in there since 1988 was my first mental health job. Trauma is at the root of everything. Poorly integrated traumatic experiences is at the root of most, probably 90% of everything I've ever treated. And the compensations that we develop to deal with the trauma ends up being our diagnoses. And so I think what we're doing here is we actually have a tool that can go in and heal things at the root. And again, I say this often, but I firmly believe that we're on the verge of a 100-year leap in mental health, in our ability to treat mental illness and to help people with PTSD and trauma. But I will tell you, this has been by far the hardest thing I've ever done, is building this thing, and it has taken a toll. It's taken my wife, my kids, everybody, but it has been so worth it. And to have a night like this where everybody shows up and I can see the people that get what we're doing and they want to get behind us, it just makes it all worth it. And it makes me reinvest in the realization that this is going to pass. This is going to work. And MDMA will pass, I assure you. Whether it's 6 months from now or 6 years from now, it is going to pass. And So don't give up hope. Our job is to hang around, keep educating, keep teaching, keep treating, and to hopefully be around here when it becomes legal so that we can not only treat people, but we can also train therapists in how to do this work. So thank you guys for being here. I did want to go through and thank a few folks that I do believe deserve to have some individual recognition. And this is our Pearl leadership staff I'm going to start with. And Kim Turpin, are you in here? I sure hope you are. Where are you? Kim, back there in the back. She's our director of development, and I'm going to embarrass her at the very end of my talk a little more. But anyway, she's the director of development. Bill Zimmer, our chief of operations. And then Dr. Joel Chisholm. Joel, you in here? Dr. Joel Chisholm is our medical director. We have our integration specialist, who also happens to be doing double duty as our MC, Jacquelyn Dobrinska. Thank you, Jackie. And our current intern is Emma Clark from Western Carolina University, an MSW student. And she was instrumental in driving all over creation, getting auction items and helping us get this started. So thank you, Emma. I also wanted to recognize our media team, these guys that are running around and the folks that do our social media. I don't know shit about this stuff. And so I'm not even on Facebook. And so I rely on these folks to keep us relevant with people. But I do want to recognize Doug Cooper, the guy behind the camera here, our official videographer. He came to us one day and found us and just talked about how psychedelics had been so instrumental in his life, and he had all this skill and just wanted to give back. And so he has really helped us elevate the ability to get the message out there to people. I also want to recognize Julia Turpin. Julia, are you in here? Our daughter, Julia. Oh yeah, there she is. She does our social media, which is where I'm totally lost. And then also Hannah Rabideau. She also helps with social media. But the three of them are our media team, and we've been doing great. I think we just got 3,000 followers, right? We were kind of crippled before that, so we've really been making some gains. So thanks to all three of you guys for all of your efforts. I don't have time to run through all our sponsors, but I really want to thank everybody that was on that brochure that sponsored this event and sponsored the Pearl. Everybody, we would not be able to do it without these folks. So please I know everybody gets these things and they don't look at them after a while, but take a look at the folks in our community that believe in this work. And I really want to encourage you guys, go to their businesses, buy from them, because these are the folks that get it, and we want to support them. You're going to keep me on track, right? 5 minutes? Is it really? Okay, I'm going to fly through this really quickly. I want to thank one of our funders that I do want to call out is the Evergreen Foundation, who are sitting here at this table. These were the guys that believed in us when nobody believed in us. And they gave us the funding to be able to treat our 4 patients in expanded access, and I am just forever grateful. Denise, Marty, and Ralph, and the rest of the Evergreen board, I'm so thankful for all of the support you guys gave us. You believed in us when nobody else did. I also want to thank Katrin Metz, who did our flower arrangements tonight. I wanted to make sure she was recommended noticed. And I also want to thank my mom, Elaine Turpin. I would not be here without her, obviously, wherever she is. Yeah, there she is, yes. And then briefly, I want to have everybody that volunteered to help us get this thing going, please stand up and just let us give you a round of applause. I wanted to acknowledge a few: Laura Peyton Moore, Emma Clark, Ashley Robinson, Robin Minnick, Star Rose Bond, Ashley Lieb, and the list goes on and on. But I really wanted to just thank those folks. And then I did want to recognize that we have a few celebrities in our midst here tonight. The first one is, I think, our own speakers, the folks that are brave enough to stand up here and talk to you guys, particularly some of our past patients. Their ability to get up here and talk about their experience is enormous, and it's powerful, and I want to thank them. We also have Mr. John Lubecki in the house. John, you here? John has been a tireless advocate for MDMA in Washington, D.C. We're really glad to have him here. I also want to recognize Kate Miller. Kate, where are you? I know you're going to be embarrassed, but Kate, she was our study coordinator from MAPS and Lycos who kept us on track. And then we also have Haley Gilmore, who's here from Austin, Texas. Haley, where are you? Please just, there we go. Haley's in the back over there. She came to the Pearl and believed in us and went back to Lycos and said, these guys get it. These guys are what the original vision of MAPS and how this stuff was to roll out was supposed to look like. And she advocated tirelessly for them, which is why we were in line to be a treatment site in January, but we will eventually. And then to wrap it up, I want to also be able to recognize Chris Bache and his wife, Christina Hardy. They're Asheville residents, and if you haven't read LSD and the Mind of the Universe, if you've ever wondered what would happen if a really intelligent, grounded human being took about as much LSD as humanly possible and went as far out as possible and still had the faculties and the skill to come back and eloquently describe what he encountered, that is Mr. Chris Bache. And we do have a drawing here. We have 2 autographed copies of his book out there. One is in Spanish and one is in English. Chris, do you want to come up and draw the winner of each? But we're very honored to have Chris here and all of our speakers. So Chris, why don't you pick the winner of the English version?
English version, okay, here we go. I didn't bring my glasses.
Actually, we're going to have them win both versions because, yeah. So here is, flip it over. Anthony Weiss. All right, congratulations. Those books are going to be worth millions one day. Thank you. All right, hey, I'm going to turn it back over to Jackie. We're on a tight schedule. We're going to try to keep this going. I'm going to have the shepherd's crook over there to yank anybody speaking more than 5 minutes like me. But thank you. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Raymond. We have a lot more thank yous coming up throughout the night, but for now, let us go to our next speaker, who is a true pioneer in psychedelic research and therapy, Annie Mithoefer. So alongside, I'm going to introduce you as you come up. So alongside her husband, she led 2 phase 2 clinical trials on MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD. And if that doesn't impress you, her dedication to training therapists on safe and effective treatments certainly will. As a registered nurse, Annie has decades of experience working with trauma patients, and she's been a steadfast supporter of the Pearl. And we're so lucky to have you with us tonight. Thank you so much. Let's give a big warm welcome to Annie.
Thank you, Jackie. Wow. Thank you, Raymond and Kim, and it's pretty amazing. There are people here that we've trained, therapists that we've trained. It feels like a community, and I love being part of this community. Part of that is the Pearl and what they've done. Yeah, and I can't help but think about Dave Nichols being here, because that was the MDMA we used with our patients. And it seemed to work. Yeah, so I'm privileged to have worked with phase 2 patients, participants, and couples who were suffering from the PTSD that happens when you're a person with PTSD. It affects everybody in the relationship. And it was a disappointing thing to see what happened this summer. But thinking about it, with how long Rick has been working on this, and the other therapists that worked on MDMA therapy before it was shut down in 1985. So it has been a long time where people have been really working, and I think we're going to get there. It's just more work, more money probably, and a little bit more time. And in the meantime, people are suffering, and we know that this treatment could really help. So I think giving money to Pearl and places that you can to promote this would be really great. And thank you.
So our next speaker is Ken Maxwell. So he can come up here as I'm introducing him. And he has a really powerful story to share. He's a veteran who lives in Asheville. And he's been through a lot, including an undiagnosed traumatic brain injury that resulted in 415 consecutive days of cluster headaches. And if you don't know what a cluster headache is, they're known as suicide headaches due to their intensity. And that's more than a year, I just want to point out. So thanks to psilocybin clinical trials at Yale, Ken found a glimmer of hope and is now an advocate for psychedelics as a treatment for cluster headaches and has been featured in a book called Psychedelic Outlaws. So a big, warm welcome to Ken Maxwell.
I'm a little short right now. Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank Vanna for her assistance today. As you can see, I'm an arm short, so I appreciate her her arm as assistance. But I also want to begin by saying what an incredible asset we have in the Pearl Institute and their family. Their mission, their research, their experiences, and most of all, their hearts of care and hope for people who suffer are critical not only to Western North Carolina, but to our state and to the nationwide movement to bring safe and intentional healing to many. That includes those suffering from many physical and emotional traumas and conditions. They have been an invaluable asset and partner as we have worked with the state legislature to establish clinical trials to confirm further the efficacy and most effective protocols for the wholeness and health of all of our citizens. While we are not where we need to be just yet, we are hopeful to see progress in the 2025 legislative session. And Jonathan Lebecki and Gina Giorgio, who are here, and so many others that are also here, have been such an integral part of that process, so I thank them as well. My introduction to psychedelics came out of desperation. After my diagnosis of clusters following a traumatic brain injury, I found myself battling the beast with all kinds of medications, injections, experimental treatments, doctors, specialists, and a few Hail Marys that were just not effective. As of today, I've tried more than 35 medications, more than 50 different therapies, 20 different medical professionals in 3 states. At its peak of the beast, I was taking more than 600 pills per month, more than 40 injections per month, and this was just to try to survive. I also have broken 5 teeth and crowns from clenching during the attacks, where the pain is just so overwhelming. I've had 2 teeth pulled and will be getting my first dental implant in the next few weeks, all because of this horrendous disease. At its peak, I was averaging more than 3 attacks per day, which is more than 1,100 attacks over 12 months. In early 2020, I contacted Yale, who was conducting a double-blind study using a psilocybin pulse regimen to treat cluster. I simply wanted a copy of the results, but I ended up becoming the very last subject enrolled in this trial. I completed 2 trials over 6 months apart. That was pivotal in my treatment. It not only gave me hope for the first time in 12 years, but psilocybin eventually broke the 415 consecutive streak of those neurological attacks. I had not experienced one single day in over a year without these horrific suicide headaches. Thanks to psychedelics, my number of attacks in 2023 was reduced by 48% over 2020. And most importantly, the number of severe attacks, what I call the widowmakers, apologies to my wife, was down by 82%. Psychedelics have saved my life, and I became an advocate. This past June, Rutgers sociologist Joanna Kempfer, as mentioned, released a new book called Psychedelic Outlaws. It chronicles the journey of cluster survivors like me and how they became the driving force in citizen science as we continually faced obstacles in the failed healthcare system, pharmaceutical industry, political dysfunction, the power of money, and in some of our research institutions. It's a compelling story of how desperate patients took matters into their own hands and discovered a protocol that saved lives. That protocol was the basis used in the Yale clinical trial that saved my life. Dr. Kempner does a beautiful job telling that story, and she will be coming to Asheville later this year to speak. I'm very grateful for Pearl's support in introducing her to our community. So be on the lookout for details from Pearl as they are finalized. Thank you for your support of Pearl, which is so critical. And please stay engaged as we continue the important work to make psychedelics part of the solution for so many who are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's all just take a nice big deep breath after that really powerful story. Yeah. That's what we're here to do. So, let's move on to our next speaker, which is Dr. Dave Nichols, who's basically a living legend in the world of psychedelic science, right? So he can make your way up as I'm introducing you. He's been studying psychedelic pharmacology since 1969 at Purdue University and is now Professor Emeritus at Echelon School of Pharmacy at UNC Chapel Hill. Did I say that wrong? Yeah, no. And I think when Raymond sent me the write-up of his introduction, he called him a titan. A true expert, as he's researched and created untold unique psychedelics yet to be studied. And he coined the term entactogen. Do you know what that means? So it comes from the Greek, apparently, and it means to touch within, which kind of sums this up, right? Yeah. He is the founding president of the nonprofit Hefner Research Institute, which helps fund psilocybin research around the world. And recently, he did an interview with Raymond on the Pearl's YouTube channel. So if you're not signed up for that, please do. And with that, let's give a big round of applause. Such an honor to have him here tonight. Dr. David Nichols. There you are.
Thank you. So this is a rather amazing crowd. My grandmother had a stitching needlework on the wall that said, "Patience is the foremost beauty of the mind." And patience is what you have to have. I started working in psychedelics in 1969, and I could never have imagined this day. We're not there yet, but I would encourage you to be persistent and be patient because it will pay off. I was doing research at Purdue. It was actually funded by the National Institute on Drug Abuse, and I was one of the few people in the world that was studying the chemistry and pharmacology of psychedelics and entactogens. And I felt fairly privileged. Nobody at Purdue knew really what I was doing. They just knew I was getting grants and I was a good teacher. But I was kind of a mole in the system, I guess. Anyway, I made the MDMA that MAPS used for their phase 1 and 2 studies. I made the DMT that Rick Strassman used for his studies of DMT, the spirit molecule. I made the psilocybin that was used at Johns Hopkins for their end-of-life studies. It's hard for me to talk about myself because I don't really feel like I've done a lot, but I guess I have. When nobody was doing clinical research, I couldn't give drugs. I had graduate students that ate some of my drugs, but I couldn't do that officially. And no one was doing clinical work, and I got together a bunch of guys and said, let's start a foundation to support clinical research. So we started the Hefner Research Institute. Arthur Hefner was the German scientist that identified mescaline in peyote in 1898. And he had an MD and a Ph.D. in chemistry and pharmacology. So we started that. We raised $10 million. We funded Charlie Grobe's study of psilocybin in end-of-life patients that was published in 2011. We funded the studies at New York University and Johns Hopkins for end-of-life studies. We funded the Mogenschutz studies at University of New Mexico and New York University looking at psilocybin-assisted therapy for alcohol use disorder. And so it's happened. I never thought it would happen, and a woman asked me years ago, what do you see as the future for this field? And I said, I don't know, probably someday long after I'm dead, you'll be having a midlife crisis and your physician will send you down to speak to a shaman/psychiatrist, and he'll give you a psychedelic session and you'll get a new perspective and get your life back. She said, oh my God, you think you'll be dead by then? And I said, probably, and I probably will be. But I said, as long as the vector is pointing in the right direction, I'll be happy. And the vector's pointing in the right direction. And you people are evidence of that, because Raymond told me this meeting gets bigger every year. There's more excitement. It is a breakthrough in mental health. It will be a breakthrough in mental health when the politicians get out of the way. And so I think it's going to be a great future. But patience, persistence, don't give up. I mean, I've been doing this since 1969, and I never expected it would be where we are now. But we'll get there, and I'm convinced of it. And I may not get there, like Martin Luther King said, I may not get there with you, but we're going to get there. You're going to get there. And there's so many people that need this medicine. So I've probably used up my 5 minutes. Thank you.
Turn around. An honor, right? Yeah. So as we look ahead in this pointing in the right direction, we look ahead at what's next for Pearl. And one of the things that we're keeping our eye on for now is the ketamine-assisted therapy. And I just want to give you a little bit of what they've been doing in the last year. The Pearl's treated over 80 people, and many of them received this treatment from a sliding scale. That's the accessibility part. Yay. Yeah, definitely. And you know, these are people that have struggled with everything from depression to PTSD. And when they go through the program, they see major improvements in their quality of life. And we're going to be launching some new group therapy models to help increase accessibility in the next little bit. And that is just one of the things that's on the horizon in the next couple of months. Our next speaker is Samantha Simmons, and she has another really powerful and inspiring story. She is a veteran and a combat vet who suffered an injury right before deployment. And so after being separated from service, she has spent a lot of time helping veterans through organizations like Veteran Services of the Carolinas and Warrior Clan, as well as a Man with a Horse project, which is where she works now. After struggling with PTSD that hadn't been diagnosed, she ended up accessing the ketamine-assisted psychotherapy program, and she received free treatments, right? And so she's made the incredible strides, and she's here tonight to share her journey with us. And we're so grateful for her courage and the proud of the progress that she has made. So let's give a warm, warm welcome to Sam.
Appreciate it. Good evening. Thank you for the introduction. As she said, my name is Samantha Simmons. I am honored to be invited here tonight to help celebrate and support the work that the Pearl is pioneering. Some odd years ago now, there were rumors spreading through the local veteran community that there was a doctor in the area seeking and offering those of our affiliation to try alternative treatment methods for PTSD, depression, anxiety of the like. that we have may developed during our time in service. I have fought for my healing for many long years. I have been through different medications, several therapy programs, all this on top of my own research of self-healing processes, books, journeys, anything and everything that I could try to get my hands on. I'm a person who is constantly working towards my involvement as a human being. What do I no longer need in my life? How can I be better? What changes do I need to make to live to my fullest potential? How do I let go? Everything I tried was temporarily short-lived, if it even helped at all. After initially speaking with Dr. Turpin and his wife Kim, I was a little hesitant to jump on board and a little skeptical with the whole psychedelics idea being used in treatment due to past prejudices from exposure to some things in my growing up life. 4 months after that meeting, I ended up running into my old bank teller, Justin Powell, at our children's martial arts class. So after many years of not seeing each other, we caught up, and he had told me that he was actually associated with the Pearl and that it had completely changed his life. Yep. Following a near suicide attempt, another couple of months later, I finally decided to try it as a last-ditch effort. One more attempt, I told myself, for the hope to live a semi-functioning life, and that this would be the last time that I ever tried anything again to help myself. I don't think I ever disclosed that to you, Dr. Turpin, sorry. 2 months into treatment, 2 months, my friends and loved ones started seeing differences. After 4 months of treatment, I personally started seeing and feeling the changes. I started cooking at home again. My house stayed cleaner. I spent more time outside. My emotions and my anger regulated significantly, and I started to take care of myself again. My son started laughing more. He started playing more, and he started talking more. Yeah. I've had more energy to engage with him more often and be the mom that he deserves. We don't really realize how we affect those around us when we are not aligned with ourselves. The Pearl has been extremely generous with their care and treatment for me. They actually care about their patients, and I deeply believe in their work. After my treatments have ended, they have even continued to check in on me and see how things were going. I will always be appreciative of them and my sponsor who made receiving these treatments possible for me. And I will always be an advocate for your work. Dr. Turpin, Kim, and your staff, you are truly good people who are not only changing people's lives, but you're saving them, and you surely saved mine.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thanks for sharing that incredible, incredible transformation, which is why we're here. This is why we're here. And she mentioned the staff, and so I just want to take a moment to thank a lot of the people that are behind the scenes. So first, our amazing MDMA Expanded Access team, Kim Skelton, Dr. Caroline Lewis, Dr. Zach Foy, Dr. Brandon Adcott, Natalie Lembeck, Laura Pate Moore, Frank Starling, and Julia Rodriguez. If you're here, stand up and let's give you a big round of applause. Woo! And then we have this incredible dedicated clinical staff as well. And if you're here, please stand up. Dr. Joe Chisholm and his medical team, Carmen Chavez, Brandy Doyle. And then we have the Dr. David Young, Star Rosebond, and Trevor Raw. Please stand up. Let's. Incredible, incredible contributions to this work. And so with that, let's go to our next speaker, and it's my incredible honor to introduce someone who has really shaped the landscape of MDMA-assisted therapy, Dr. Michael Mithoefer. Woo! So he, along with his wife Annie, pioneered the work that helped bring MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD to where we are today. He literally wrote the manual. So he wrote the manual for the MDMA protocols, which provide sensitive and effective guidance for therapists, helping their patients navigate this world. I'm going to say a little bit more about you, so. Just a little bit. So he's a physician and a longtime psychedelic researcher, and that included serving as medical monitor for MAPS-sponsored clinical trials in Europe, in the Middle East, in Canada, and in the United States. And he has worked closely with Rick Doblin and MAPS and the FDA and Lykos Therapeutics to ensure that these therapies are safe and effective. And he was a mentor of the lovely doctor, and is a mentor of the Dr. Lovely Raymond Turpin. And he's really a big reason. He's been laid such a foundation for the Pearl. And so we're all so incredibly grateful for what you have done. And it's an honor to bring you to the stage. Big warm welcome.
Thank you, Jackie. I think Raymond and I are mentors for each other by now. Yeah, what an amazing thing. It's so great to be here in this community, as Annie said. And what you've done, Raymond and Kim and all of you at Pearl, is remarkable. You know, we know all the sites studying MDMA everywhere in the world, and this is the only one that's treating people in rural areas. It's the only one. It's really important. So it's really an honor to have a chance to talk to you. And of course, everything that Jackie mentioned, I've done with Annie. We've done this together, so I want everybody to remember that, please. I can look pretty good if I've got her support. So, you know, it's. I'm just thinking about. Obviously, we're all pretty bummed. I'm angry and sad to think of all the people waiting for treatment that are going to have to wait longer because of the FDA. But as Raymond and Dave has said, this is, you know, this is not, these were very, very successful clinical trials. There was not a problem with the research. It was not a situation where we arrived at FDA with insufficient evidence or insufficient safety. That is not what happened. It was a political hit job, and it was amazingly effective. So let's get over the idea, sure, we didn't do everything perfectly, but this whole idea that it was a cult or somehow it was sloppy or we somehow enlisted academics from all over the world at major institutions into being part of the cult. I guess you're part of it, Dave. So, you know, I want to be clear about that. We are going to get past this. It's tragic in a way, but patience, as you said, is important. I mean, we heard from Rick. He started on this in '85. We didn't start on this until 2000. Is that right? Yeah. Anyway, so thinking, you know, I had in mind that this was going to be a really fun time when Raymond and everybody's starting to treat people and MDMA is going to be legal. It didn't happen that way. But as Dave has said, this is a long arc. So it's helped me. In some way, it's been weird because, you know, in the last 10 years, we've had pretty favorable press and reactions from the public and the politicians because we've just been doing the research. And now, suddenly, that is all flipped. It feels a lot like the first 10 years when it was completely like this, you know, one obstacle after another, lies, misunderstandings, prejudice, fear about the drug war, and fear about expanding consciousness. That's what a lot of it is about. You know, so there was all that fear. We kept, you know, just to give you an idea of some of the arc, you know, surprisingly, we got permission in 2001 from FDA for the first study. That was surprisingly fast. Then it took 2.5 years to get FDA approval with DEA. Yeah, thanks. So yeah, to get DEA approval and IRB approval, we had a whole thing with that too, where there was a paper from Hopkins saying that MDMA causes dopamine toxicity, and it turns out they gave him methamphetamine instead of MDMA, a legal drug. So we had that kind of thing went on. I had to, before we could get DEA approval, I had to finally write to the senator, the last Democratic senator from South Carolina, to get some action out of DEA after 2.5 years. So that happened. We got permission to do it at the university, at the research center. Then after 6 months, the university was allergic to us. So we had to go back. We thought we're dead in the water. They're never going to let us do it in the office. It took even longer to get permission to then do it in the office. So we did that. So one thing after another. I can't tell you how many calls I get from Rick. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, shit, something's happened. We're screwed. What are we going to do next? And we just did the next thing next. So it feels very familiar. And because, we've said all along, we got a lot of political interference with science in the beginning. Then it settled down, because how can you object to research that's publishing in journals and showing results? But then, not too long ago, it became clear, this is going to happen. It's going to really threaten the pharma industry. It's going to threaten all the people in academia who didn't think of this and who resisted it, and it's somebody else's idea, and now they're going to, it's like, as Raymond said, I think, this calls for a complete overhaul of the mental health system. When you see what actually happens for people, what we just heard happens for people, and they don't like that. They do not like that. So this is what we're up against. We're up against the fear, the financial interests, the political interests, and as Dave said, we got to be patient. It was a lot more fun back in the day when I just fill out a form 2022, send it to Dave. He'd mail some MDMA from FedEx. One time, I don't think I told you this, that was perfectly legal. I don't think I ever told you this, Dave. One time you sent the FedEx, it required a signature, and we got to the office, it's like on the front step. It's just lying there. So those were simpler times. It's not so simple now. But it's going to happen, and it's going to happen because of all of you. We're old. We may not, who knows how long we'll be here, but there are so many skilled, trained, committed, heartful people coming along that are not going to let this go. It is going to happen. So thank you for picking up the ball and making it happen.
Oh, yeah, to that. Thank you. Our next speaker is someone who brings a unique perspective to the conversation. Ehren Cruz is not only a founding board member of the Pearl, but he's also a master ceremonialist and a certified harm reductionist. And he advocates for preserving the cultural wisdom of plant medicine traditions. So he also provides coaching for rites of passages for plant journeys through his retreat center, Spark. And a lot of Ehren's work is about ensuring that we move forward with psychedelic therapies. We also honor the indigenous knowledge and wisdom from which they originate. So let's welcome Ehren Cruz.
Thank you so much, Jackie. It is such a sincere honor to be a part of this experience again with you all today and to share on behalf of the ceremonial traditions and culture here. I think we're at a vital juncture in this third wave that is rising, that we honor the therapeutic and the protocols and the deep diligence that has come into this work, but we also recognize and remember the deep time and the lineages before us, the ancestry that has held these traditions sacred. So I'd first like to open just for a moment with a moment of silence. We are on Chilagi, Cherokee First Nation land. We are on sacred land out here, and this sacred land actually used to be known as the land of the sky. It is also land of sanctuary. Warring tribes or tribes in conflict would come here to hold peace summit, and even different tribes would come together to elope to these lands when they weren't permitted to marry. So this has always been a sanctuary space, and I think many of you find that in your own hearts who have chosen to live here as well. So let's give a few moments of reverence for this land. Thank you. So the therapeutic renaissance that we are all experiencing here, which really its origins and roots date back probably to the early 50s into the 60s, where over 1,000 peer-reviewed articles were published at the time, and there was great momentum in the effective use of psychedelics for different aspects of mental health. That is about 70 years old. And if we consider also the recreational or ecstatic frontier, utilizing these medicines as amplifiers or community connectors, going back to the Kool-Aid acid tests and the Grateful Dead and Haight-Ashbury, which now proliferates through our music festival culture and around our communities, that is also about 70 years old. But I want to draw our attention to the deep time of psychedelics, as they say in the Roper University, of the thousands of years that these medicines have been used sacramentally through traditions and ancient civilizations, as well as First Nations across the world. Now, if we go back to the cave paintings in France and Spain and Northern Africa, 10, 12,000 years ago, massive football field-sized paintings showing different ritual and culture and ceremony, and all around the edges, little mushrooms. You go back to Terence McKenna and the stoned ape theory and Paul Stamets now, and they think that these mushrooms, these plants, these medicines were catalysts of inspiring creativity, birthing our cosmology, perhaps even giving us a sense of wonder about each other to start gathering into civilizations and communities. So that was very prevalent in all these ancient traditions and paintings. Then you kind of move beyond into the Kaikion, the sacred brew outside of the Eleusinian mysteries, revered for 2,000 years, drank with great reverence, a once-in-a-lifetime pilgrimage for 24 miles with fasting to drink this psychedelic beverage to teach you lessons of the soul, aspects of the Dionysian mysteries and pre-canon Christianity, drinking the ergotted wines, bringing people into ecstasis. Across the world, into the Soma, the Rig Veda, and the Indians, the indigenous Indians before the original the Hindu tradition. The Soma brew was mentioned 100 times as the medicine mushroom within, giving great visions. The mana of the Judaic and Zoroastrian traditions. The fly algoric mushroom of the Mongolian shaman. The psilocybin of the Druidic and Celtic traditions. We have the iboga of the Bwiti tribe, which ibogaine now is one of the most powerful medicines for narcotics and relieving people that are dealing with deep addiction, that are hopeless, and are now going through sessions and ceremonies with the iboga and finding great promise in their ability to move through life. The Paturi of the Aborigine tradition. We have San Pedro and Huachuma, founders of rituals, tools that are 8,000 years old, using the San Pedro cactus medicine in the Andean Peruvian curanderos that are now practicing to this time. The peyote medicine of the Southwest that has been held by the Huichol people, and the native church now honors that tradition, which also needs our support. These are very, very small plots of land that actually has this peyote mushroom, so honoring, revering, and representing the native church and giving them the full autonomy to use that medicine first is important for us to represent those traditions that has really saved their particular tradition. Ayahuasca and Yahe, the Amazonian vine of the souls, used for thousands of years to commune with the grandmother spirit, having people tap into the spirit of the jungle, learning how to be stewards and caretakers of our land, of our people. We have the Teonoctl, the flesh of the gods, the Aztec, the Maya, the Toltec, the Olmec, and the Mazatec traditions, holding this beautiful medicine medicine sacred, who then gifted it back to us in 1957, Maria Sabina, where we now have the gift of the magic mushroom that has gone back into our lives with great, great sacrifice upon herself to her own people. So we are now gifted from that tradition, bringing it back to us now to heal, to thrive. There's countless other medicine traditions holding plants ceremonied sacred in the deep time, and many of these traditions have suffered greatly in persecution and continue to be forgotten and threatened by the colonization mindset of these medicines, the idea that we are owners of these medicines, that we control these medicines, when really we are stewards of these medicines. We are here to treat them as resources, to utilize them as catalysts for transformation and change, but to have great intention, great care, great sacredness in how we support these medicines with one another and represent with reciprocity back to the caretakers of the forest and the caretakers of the lands who actually host and create these medicines here. The Pro recognized the importance of this, and they had indigenous values and support when they, our dear friend Sophia Rockland had her book When Plants Dream, and we were able to donate a lot of those proceeds back to the Amazon, the Sequoia tribe, of any of the things that we had raised for the Pearl, back to the Amazonian forest, back to those caretakers of that particular medicine. So we are very, very active in understanding the value of indigenous culture and the value of those medicines in our own lifetime. So the medicine teaches us again to live in stewardship of community, to proceed in this emergence with reciprocity, to remember that we are adolescents in how we are treating these medicines now in our own development in the West, and that we actually have to look back to the ancestors, the keepers, the First Nations who have been working with these medicines for thousands of years. They are teachers. Their wisdom is quiet and subtle. They listen to the harmony of the music of the ceremony and ritual. They feel with intuition into the soundscape, into the souls of those that they care for. They come with compassionate hearts. They represent each one of us in our own capacity to dig deep within ourselves, to find the healing intelligence within, and allow these plants to then allow us to move back into our central nature. Who were we before the traumas, before the wounds? What was the wonder in our hearts? What were the creator that was within us when we ran upon the fields and didn't check our watches, remembered how beautiful this world is? This is a time we're being called back to be stewards of humanity once again, and coming together as tribe and family, as one people. Many of us hold different facets of the diamond of this psychedelic culture, and it's our responsibility to not only push it forward, but to keep a pulse on the ancestral lineage behind us, and make sure that we do not leave our caretakers behind, and we learn for them the great wisdom that they have carried. So thank each one of you for caring for that message, and as we rise together, let's rise with our brothers and sisters of the First Nations as well. Aho Mithoefer. So
well said. Wow, so well said. And I think it's a perfect opportunity for us all to just take a moment and pause and breathe and close our eyes and give thanks to these teachers, human and plant and beyond. Let's pause together and give thanks to these ancestors. Thank you. It's a moment in time, but infinite. So our last speaker, last but not least, we have Rogers Mason. Rogers is a Western North Carolina native and also a U.S. Army veteran. And he's also a successful music producer, engineer, and songwriter. And Raymond found his stage name, which is the Raj Mahal. Rogers was the very first participant in the Pearl's Extended Access MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD program in the spring of 2023. And since then has been a vocal proponent of MDMA-assisted therapy for veterans and people suffering with PTSD. As a result of his MDMA treatments, Rogers has created a unique immersive sound experience for psychedelic-assisted therapy through his company, Psysonics. So we're going to welcome him to the stage, but first Raymond is going to read something.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, before Rogers comes up, hey, Jackie, you want to hold this?
Oh, I'd love
Yeah. Rogers asked me to, this is a letter he was not comfortable reading last year, but he is this year, so it shows that he's continuing to improve. But this was a letter that he wrote Kim Skelton, who was my treatment partner, after we had completed the protocol. And he said, "Dear Raymond and Kim, words cannot adequately express my gratitude, so I'll make an attempt to convey my appreciation in another way, and I can't think of a better way than with this piece of cloth. This is from the uniform I was wearing when the wall came down on me and my battle buddy. I kept it uncleaned and untouched in an actual locked box since October of 1989. Wasn't sure why I held on to it this long. I looked at the box many times over the years, unable to open it, so it just sat there. Now I know why. Last week, during a deep processing session, it came up and its purpose was revealed clear as a bright blue sky. Strength, forgiveness, and a way forward. I went straight for it. I opened it for the first time, ripped off this section, and mounted it with my dad's quote, "Peace of mind is the softest pillow." My hope is that it will give those who see it, those who travel this journey, the strength to continue with treatment and find forgiveness within themselves. From this strength and forgiveness, I truly believe a way forward will be revealed. Peace of mind is indeed the softest pillow, and you have helped me rediscover it. Thank you, Rogers. So Rogers Masson, you want to come up and bring it home? He's batting cleanup tonight.
Yeah. So I am a music producer and used to playing music on stage. So I set this out like a set list. And these are the songs I'm gonna play. Yeah, something like that. So Raymond told me there's 5 minutes, so we're not gonna be able to do the karate demo that Raymond and I had planned. We were super excited about that. I'm just kidding. I wanna make a quick note about the screensaver that was up here for a while, and it explains a lot about Raymond, Dr. Lovely over there. It was kind of freaking me out, man. Well, I'm honored to be here, see all of these beautiful people here, and I'm just, it's a remarkable journey that's brought me to this place. I will do my best to keep it together, but I can't promise. I spent a good 30 years not really crying, even at funerals, all this stuff, and it's just like waterworks. Listening to this young man over here talk about his journey, it's just hit me hard. So I'll do my best. So I am patient 001, and it's very nice to meet all of you. Yeah. And I want to start this the way that I generally start things the few times that I've spoken in public, and all of the veterans that are in the room, if you could stand up, there's probably not that many of you, but if you don't mind standing up, just real quick. Sister back there, brother over here, yeah. Sister right there, my man Kevin, love it. So again, I said this last year, it's one thing that you notice really quickly is there's so few of us here, and it makes it easy for us to hide. And so it's a big problem, but we don't have the corner on the trauma market at all. It's a big problem that affects everybody. And the other thing you'll notice is just how damn good looking these people are. Am I right? In the yellow dress, Kevin back there in the hat, I mean, crushing it. This guy over here, I know, everybody's looking at you, man. I know, it's amazing. And it reminds me of something we call the warrior code, and that in the military, they promote you. They give you awards for sacrificing yourself for the good of others. And out in the rest of the world, they promote you for sacrificing others for the good of yourself, right? It's odd. It's, I think, one of the struggles we have coming back into the world, and things that's one of the things that don't make sense to us. And it really got me thinking before this past week about that, and those who sacrifice themselves for the good of others. And it really made me think about Raymond, Michael, Annie. Like, it really like started coming up. This badass right here, who's holding court over in the corner. Yeah. And I would just like to have all of the clinicians who work within therapy of any kind to stand up and be recognized. I would really appreciate that, because I think it's important. Josh, back in the back. We appreciate you. Kim, this is a crew right here. This is a whole gang of clinicians right there. Yeah. So I really appreciate it. And also for all the supporters, there's a great reporter here named Emma Castleberry. She's right back there with her wonderful fiance named Joel. There's Emma. She wrote a wonderful article with Raymond and I, and these are allies within this treatment, and I think it's really important that they're recognized as well, because it makes a big difference. So we've talked about the FDA, and I just want to share something that my dad told me a long time ago. That nothing worth doing is ever easy, and that is a fact. So this thing is a bump in the road, but there's hope in the future. There's hope right now. There are people like Josh Bringle back here in the back that's doing treatment already, and others that are continuing. And so I think it's really important to support these people and support what they're doing, support the Pearl and anyone else that you can. Super important. I'm taking it to the set list right now. I'll tell you something. I was just in D.C., Washington, D.C., and something that I said when I was there talking briefly was that the treatment that I received at the Veterans Administration, at the Veterans Hospital, was very helpful. I'm actually a fan of the VA. I might be the only person on the planet. I'm the guy. But I had great psychologists, and the medicine that I took really helped, but it didn't heal. And I found that out when I started tapering off of that medication to do the MDMA treatment. It was still there. It was one of the most devastating things about the experience of doing the MDMA treatment, was that this thing was still there. It softened the edges, but it didn't heal anything. And this treatment healed me. And yeah, absolutely. It's allowed me to find peace within myself, allowed me to be open, allowed me to help others. And I think that that's something that's really important. So I now have scars instead of wounds. And that's a powerful thing. That's a really powerful thing. And I think I lived for 30 years with wounds. And so to put that into perspective, I was trying to, like, how can I explain this to people as I'm talking more about it and coming out and getting asked questions from friends. PJ's back there. We've had some really good conversations around the dinner table about some of this stuff. And I went back to my VA medical records and looked at the amount of medication that I had taken over the last 10 years, a decade. Now, I've been taking medication longer than that, but this goes right to what this young man said over here. And I realized that conservatively, I had taken 1.2 million milligrams of SSRI, like Wellbutrin, and Lexapro, right, for 10 years every day. What does that mean? It's something to say that, but it's something else to feel it. So it equals 2.5 pounds. And all of you that are sitting at tables have a burlap sack that is exactly 2.5 pounds. And I encourage you to pick it up and feel what that's all about. That is the amount of medication that I took over a decade. Probably less than this warrior over here, but you know, we all have our challenges. So 2.5 pounds of medication over 10 years, and it did not heal me. It helped, without a doubt it helped, but it didn't heal me. This is a 400 milligram dose of ibuprofen. And I saw some of the mouths water, and they're like, is that MDMA? Holy shit. No. 400 milligrams of ibuprofen, right? Which is about the amount, a little less than the amount that I took of MDMA, if I'm correct, Raymond, and it healed me. That's a no bullshit number, as they say in the military, and it's an incredible thing. So I champion this. This is also a bullet, an actual 5.56 round, 55 grain bullet. And one of these things that I held up heals, and one of them leaves undeniable devastation for generations. And that's the difference, right? That these things really do work. So, what am I doing with this? Well, I have an incredible opportunity. I got to do this treatment. It really made a difference in my life. And I've started a company called Psychedelic. We're providing immersive sound for psychedelic assisted therapy. And we're starting to get clinicians on board, starting to get customers on board. We're just starting out, but any of you that are interested in that, if you will pick up underneath the burlap sack, there's a picture of a deadly handsome man who is my father. This is my dad. And on the back of that, that's right. Yeah. On the back of that is a QR code. You can check out the website. And on the front is my dad, and one of his sayings, I remember talking to him, and I've had a number of people come up to me since I spoke last year at this and wanted to know more about my dad and this thing that he told me. And so I'll just real quick tell you a little bit about that. I remember asking him, like, in all of this 23 years of being on nuclear submarines, like, what's the thing, right? And I'll tell you this first. My dad died at 51 at the VA hospital here in Asheville. Never went and sought help, absolutely suffered from the same thing that I suffered from, and the other people in this room, and probably over half this room, to be real about that. We all have trauma, right? So what is the thing after all that time in the military that you've learned? He said, peace of mind is the softest pillow. And it's true. So I'll leave you with that. If you ever need help, check out this picture. And if you're ever hurting, reach out, do the hard thing, go and ask for help, call somebody. It really makes a difference. So thank you very much. It's an honor to talk to all of you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Wow. This is this community. Like, these are the stories. This is what's happening. We get so, I think, in our silos of our little worlds of what we're doing, and then we get to come to an event like this, and we get to see what a difference this makes in really profound and personal ways. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for making this happen. Thanks for supporting the Pearl. What are you saying to me? He's got one last thing.
Thank you guys for your patience. We tried to keep things at a nice clip, but hey, we had a lot of celebrities talk tonight, so I appreciate y'all's patience. I did want to embarrass my wife at the end, because I do want you guys to realize that none of this would be happening if it was not for her. She's probably worked 7 days a week for the last probably 2 months getting this thing going. And we have a little token of our appreciation if you'll come up and get this. This is a gift certificate to the sauna house that I'm hoping you'll take somebody you like with you. But thank you so much. I wouldn't be here, and none of us would be here if you hadn't done all of this. So I appreciate it. Yeah. So thank you all so much. Jackie, thank you for emceeing. Did you have anything you wanted to wrap up with? Anything you wanted to wrap up with? Thank you guys for coming. Band's going to play till 11. The auction is going till 10:30. Christmas is coming. There's some awesome stuff out there. So think about separating some money out of your wallet and helping us out. Yeah, we've already done that. Where were you? Yeah, we did that. Okay.
And stay connected.
Yes, I'm going to turn that over to you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. One last thing is to remember to stay connected. Okay, first of all, first go buy more auction items so we can make more money so we can keep doing this, keep donating, and stay connected through all of these incredible things that are happening at the Pearl, from events and movie nights to group programs to our social media to our YouTube channel. Keep getting involved. Thank you, and thank each other for being here and being each other's community. Well done.
Thank you for watching, and please remember to like this video and to subscribe to our channel.